Hello everyone and welcome to ENR 153 car project tutorial videos. In today's video we will be building the steering rod. So we have it shown on the screen right now. It's basically an oval shape with a couple counterbores and a through-hole hole. So right here we have the bottom view is actually the top view. So we're looking at that part from the top. Um, and this is the section view right here that's shown on the top. So the section view is basically us taking this part and slicing it right through the center. So we have this section AA right here, and basically what that is we're taking this line AA and we're slicing right through it, and we're just gonna rotate that view 90 degrees and we can see all the interior features. So right here we can see our counter boards right here, and then this is our second counter bore, and this is our through-hole hole. It's basically, and we'll go more in depth later on, but it's basically a way to look to, if we have a bunch of complex features, we would like to slice through it to see what those features look like. So let's jump into SolidWorks and start this part. So file, so just gotta have my SolidWorks open. So if I go to File, New, and you get this Novice menu, which is basically your part. Hey, would you like to create a part, or would you like to create an assembly? Or if you already have a part or an assembly and you want to go ahead and create a drawing, then you can just choose the drawing icon. But if I go to my advanced, now I have my templates, so I can create my own templates or macros. I have my MBD and some tutorials. So I'm just going to go back to our Novice template. If I go to part and click OK, so I am starting a new part file. And before I do that, I always like to create folders and structure everything. So I save it in the beginning, so in case something happens, I can go back and open that file. In case your computer crashes, or there's a bunch of issues with that might occur during building parts or complex assembly. So I always like to save in advance. So let's minimize that. I'm going to minimize this one. So basically I create a car project folder. So I'm just going to create a new, well, I don't have to, so I'm just going to go in my car project, and I basically create the folder. So I have car parts 1, car parts 2, car parts 3. So you can go ahead and structure your folders as shown. And basically, so this part is from the car parts 1, so I'm going to go ahead and save it in car parts 1. And I also have folders. So I have my chassis plate, steering arm, and I have a steering rod. The only reason I have 2 revs is just because I'm playing with some of the settings. So you will only have 1 folder. So let's go back into SolidWorks. So this is the main interface. So I have my features, and most of these are grayed out because they need a sketch before. So I cannot do an extrude cut if it's not fully defined by a sketch. So I have my sketch tools. So I have my sketch, and our 3D sketch, smart dimensions, and I have my basic sketch commands. So I have my lines, circle, rectangles, ovals, slots, polygons, our spline. So if I want to create curves, I have style spline. And I have my convert entities and trim. So basically if I create a sketch, I can trim that or convert. So if I'm creating a sketch on an actual extrude boss and I don't want to go ahead and, so if I want to utilize that same sketch, I go ahead and convert that sketch so I don't have to draw it again. my offset entity. So if I have draw a box, so let's say I start with a rectangle and I don't want to draw a rectangle again, I want to offset that. So it's driven by the whenever I change the main rectangle size, the offset is going to be uniform. And then I have our mirror entities, line sketch, and we'll go through all of these later. But I just want to give you guys an overview of some of the sketch tools and features. So let's go right ahead and build the steering rod. So from my drawing, right, so our units is inches. So let me go ahead and set that up. So I like to set everything up before I start my drawing. So it's already set to IPS, which is inches, pounds, seconds. But let's say my part was in millimeters, and I can go ahead and change it to millimeter, gram, second. Or if my part was in centimeter or meter, I can go ahead and choose that. One thing to note out is, so I'm using 3 decimal points for my dimensions, 0.613, 0.500, 0.125. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and change my edit document units. And I'm just going to go ahead and change my decimals. Since we're using 3 decimal points, and I want to change my settings to 3 decimal points. And the only one you actually care about is the length, unless you have some angles in there. So I just changed my length and angle to 0.12, so 3 decimal points. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And so let me just go ahead and save. So desktop, car project, parts 1, and then this is Rev B. And I'm just going to name the part steering rod. Hit save. So you see up here, the name changes from part 1 to steering rod. And we're all set. So one thing is you can define your material before you start, or you can do it after. I'm just going to wait and do this later, the material. So again, we can start a sketch on the top plane. So if I go click on my top plane, start a sketch, or I can just exit sketch. If I start a sketch and so I have my 3 planes, and I can click on one. So there's 2 ways. There's also another way you can do it. We'll get to that later. So we have this oval shape, right? So the easiest way to do this, right? So you always want to think about, okay, what's the most efficient way to build this part? So there's 2. So the easy way to do it is, right? So if I start with a center point straight slot. So let's say I start with that. So that basically gives me somewhat the overall shape that was shown in the drawing. I hit OK. Again, there's another way we can do this. So let me go ahead and, so I'm gonna exit sketch. I'm gonna delete this sketch. So let's start a new sketch on the top plane. So we can go ahead and do a center rectangle, right? And then we can just do arcs. So we can do a tangent arc here and go. And then that means I have to do, so I grab this line, make it tangent, and then I would have to trim these. Ooh. But basically we got the same shape, but with 3 steps instead of 1. So you always want to think about the most efficient way to start your drawing. So you want to give it some thought before you start. Again, so this is not a good way to start my sketch. I mean, it's gonna work. You're still gonna get the same, but it's just more entities to fully define. So I'm gonna exit the sketch. And I'm gonna delete it. So if I hit delete on my keyboard, click yes. And let's go back and build it with the center straight slot. So hit sketch again. Go to my top plane. And I'm gonna utilize the center point straight slot. Right? Make sure it's horizontal. Click OK. So if I select this line, so I have my horizontal constraint, so relation already defined right here. So if I delete that, then I'm going to be able to rotate this. Which you don't want that. You basically want to fully define your sketch. So if I actually select this again, I'm going to click on horizontal. And basically adds this relation. So this line turns black, and that means that line is fully defined. So any blue lines or entities that are blue, they're not fully defined, so they're underdefined. And any black lines or black entities that are if they are black, that means they're fully defined. So right here, I can also double check, says my sketch is underdefined. So let's go ahead and start defining this sketch. So I know, so I'm just gonna start. Let's go start with the width. So it's 0.5. So right, these two lines turn black. The arcs are still blue because we don't know the distance between the two arcs. So I'm gonna define that. So I'm gonna select this point and that point. And you see they turn black. And that is 2.95. So overall, the whole sketch is black. And if I double check here, it says my sketch is fully defined, which is great. So now I can go ahead and click check. And I can go ahead and extrude that. So right now, I have my extrude boss base, which basically takes the sketch to isometric view. So I have a better idea of what this looks like. And there's directions, right? So if I can do a mid plane, basically taking that top plane, extruding both directions, up and down. But in this case, I just want a blind. It's basically taking that plane and just going up. Or I can change the direction and go down. It's basically just going in one direction. And I know my overall thickness is 0.125 inches. Let's hit OK. Perfect. So we have our basically the overall shape fully defined. So let's go ahead and start getting those features in. The corner bores and through a hole. So I'm just gonna go to my top face. Actually, I don't need to do that. I'm just gonna go ahead and click on Hole Wizard. But before I do that, I like to look at it from the top view. So I can, if I go to my view orientation, I can go to my top view and basically takes my view, look at it, at my whatever part I built, and looks at it from the top. It's just easier to find those features from that view. So I'm gonna go to Hole Wizard. And for my counter bores, so it's a counter bore, and see inch, and the type, we really don't care about the type, and I'm just gonna do show custom sizing. So the through hole diameter from the drawing is 0.129, and this turns yellow if you are using a custom size. My counter bore diameter, again from the drawing, is 0.313, and the depth is 10 thousandths. So I have everything defined. My end condition, I want it to be through all. So we fully defined the hole type. So now let's jump to the positions tab. And now it's asking us to select the face, or where we would like to place this hole. So I'm gonna click on this face. So it shows a preview of the hole. So I can put it anywhere within that face, right? The nice thing about SolidWorks, so if I want to define a hole with respect to an arc, if I actually just come close to the arc, it shows where the center is. And I can just pinpoint to that center. Again, if I come here, so this one doesn't show it, right? So I don't want to fully, so if I just click on the arc, sorry about it, you don't click on the arc, you just come close to it and you just place your cursor on top of it. It shows the center. So again, I'm just going to click on here. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And those holes are fully defined with respect to the arc. Center of the arc. Click OK. And those are fully defined. We could have done it another way, right? I mean, if I go back and I edit feature, I'm gonna go back to my top view. I could have, for positions, I could have defined it. I could have used a center line here, and then I could have used another center line here, and then you can use those center lines to define where that point is. But I mean, that's too much work, and SolidWorks lets you define it with respect to the arc. Again, there's just more efficient ways to do things, and that just comes with practice. So I'm gonna cancel because I already defined everything. The last thing we need to do is just that 60 thou through all hole. So again, before I do that, I'm just gonna go ahead and save. I like to save occasionally. Again, go back to features or features tab, hole wizard. Before I do that, again, go back to my top view. Just easier to locate those holes looking at them straight from the top view. And this hole is this will be a hole. So I don't want to keep these custom sized, so I'm just going to reset. All drill sizes. And it's a 60 thou, right, through all. I believe the closest drill size is a 53, and that puts it at 0.0595. If I go to 50, it's 0.70 thou. So 53 puts it at 59.5. But again, I want it to be exact So I can just go ahead, put 0.060. That's going to change. That box gets highlighted in yellow. That means you already put in a custom size. Through all and condition is what we want for this one. Because again, if we go back to 60 thou through all, and right here, the nice thing about the section view, you can see the holes feature. So this feature is going through all. Again, let's go ahead to our position. Let's go ahead to my position tab. Again, select that face. And then again, so this is where we can do things, define things in a simpler way. So if I just click this here, then I would have to define it with respect to the center, which is 0.613, and this, and take that point and this point, because I want it to be on the same line, and just say they're horizontal. Now it's fully defined. Well, we don't have to do that, so take this back. If I go ahead to my positions, so anytime you actually exit out of this hole, the only way to actually insert a hole is if you actually go to your sketch and click on point. So the hole is defined by that point. So if I come close to my center, it shows this blue dotted line. That means it's horizontal with respect. So that means that they're on the same line. So we basically already defined one feature. So, or I can go to this center, take it. Right here it's telling me it's horizontal. I'm gonna take that point and that circle. I just want to define the distance, and it's 0.613. So right now it still says underdefined, but we already know they're on the same line. So if I take this point and that, I select add a horizontal relation. Now that point turned black and my sketch is fully defined. Click check. I have all my features defined. So I just like to rotate and double check everything. Go back to the bottom. And so let's go ahead and save. So basically we're done with, again, our part. Last thing we need to do is define the material. So let's go ahead and edit material. So sometimes I like to do this in the beginning just because I tend to forget about it towards the end. So let's do, it's a 6061 aluminum. So if you go to SolidWorks materials and there's aluminum alloys, I'm just going to scroll down. There's a 6061 alloy. Hit apply. And our appearance changes a bit. So let's say I use steel. So it has a different appearance. So those are SolidWorks built-in appearances. If I choose, let's see, wood, which it doesn't make any sense for this, but just for looking at the different appearances that, right, they're defined by the material. So every material has its own built-in appearance to it that SolidWorks has put in. So if I go back to what my material should be, which is the aluminum alloy, to 6061, hit apply, and we are all set. So I'm going to go ahead and save one more time. Before I do that, so before I'm fully done with this part, I go to File Properties. I'm just going to put my name as the author. and so should you. For every single part you create, you should fully define those. Your author, if you have any comments, your title, subject. The main one is the author. And then if I go to custom, I want to put in the material. So it's for my drawing, so it's 1/8 space 6061 aluminum. Hit OK. And the reason I do that is because when we actually start creating drawings, the drawing is gonna link to that material. So whatever you define in there, it's just gonna grab it and place it on the drawing. Again, go ahead and file save, and we're all set.